Thank you so much, Chelsea, and hello to everybody. I am super excited to be here talking about Instagram. It is one of the best marketing tools for my business personally, and so I just am excited to share everything that I have learned and the practices and the systems that I use to really make Instagram such an important marketing tool. So this presentation from Views to Inquiries is actually four modules that I am teaching from my course Booked by Instagram. So I'll share more information about that course later, but this is really just kind of touching and scratching the surface of that course. So if you are unfamiliar with who I am, my name is Julia and I own Julia K Design, as Chelsea mentioned. I'm located in Easton, Pennsylvania. However, I do serve clients worldwide, and that is a lot due to Instagram. And that's, where a lot of people that are in different states, even different countries, find me. So a little bit about my journey is I started in 2018 and then I took it full time in 2020. And then in 2022, that's really where I started to see growth on Instagram and really started to take off, as you can say. And it's really where things like started to take a shift and started to change for me. I started to see a lot of growth on Instagram, and it kind of opened my eyes to like, wow, I can really utilize Instagram in a way that is going to completely transform my business and take it to the next level. And so it was really cool to see that shift, but also like learn the specific systems and processes that I was using and kind of refine them throughout the years to really make it a seamless system that works consistently to bring me clients. So I want to touch on why you should listen to me. If I was sitting in a presentation, I would definitely want to know what credibility the presenter has. And so I just wanted to share a few analytics. Um, Most importantly, over 50% of my booked clients comes from Instagram, and 22 of my last 30 inquiries actually found me from Instagram. I have a current following of a little bit over 72,000. And in 2026 alone, I have brought in over 3,000 new followers. And this is all from free advertising. So I'm not paying any money on ads on Instagram or Facebook. No money going into it, which is really great. I think social media is a really great marketing tool because it is free. And so far in 2026, I have had over 1 million reel views, over 380,000 accounts reached, over 5,000 shares, and 14,000 saves. And these statistics are all happening while I'm only posting a few times a week. So I counted and I have only posted 32 times this year. So that's an average of 2.6 posts per week. I know there was a time when everybody was saying you needed to post multiple times a day on Instagram or, at least multiple times a week. That really is not the case anymore. And so I just wanted to point that out because I think a lot of people find Instagram to be very daunting because they have this mentality that they have to post at least once a day. And I'm really like here to prove that you absolutely do not. And I think kind of the fewer posts, the better, as long as they're intentional, and they are, working towards your end goal. So I mentioned in 2022, I had two reels that took off, or I didn't mention that it was two specifically, but that's really where I started to see my Instagram growth. And that really came from just two reels. So I had around 5,000 followers at this time. And these two reels took me to over 50,000 followers, which was absolutely insane. And it was just from two specific reels, and they were so simple. I do have them linked. I'm not going to click the link. Obviously, it would open up things and cause chaos on the back end. But if you go to my Reels tab, you would be able to find them on my Instagram account. But these two Reels really started to like make me wonder because I had never had anything take off like this before. And so I was wondering, like, they were just a week apart. So I was like, what do these two Reels have in common that have caused such drastic analytics and like such crazy views and reach. So I really started to like look into things, and this ultimately led to what I call my signature reel formula. And this was the time where I really started to look at Instagram differently and take it more seriously as a marketing tool, and really started to start focusing on taking those inquiries that I was getting from Instagram and turning them into leads. So, as I mentioned earlier, I am booking over 50% of my clients from Instagram, and this is an actual screenshot from my project breakdown. Just a couple of weeks ago, you'll see 37 have come from Instagram. So, it's really like this is the proof right here is that Instagram is really doing wonders for my business. So, I really am excited to dive in and show you guys exactly how I have mastered Instagram and how I hope you guys can as well for your business. So, touching a little bit on what you will learn in this presentation, most importantly, I will teach you my signature reel formula, and that's really just what I have kind of curated to create reels that work consistently and bring in new leads. I'll teach you a little bit about the power of behind the scenes content, also how storytelling naturally sells your services, and then talking about the client journey on Instagram, which is a really important part. And then I also want to touch upon how to automate the process using ManyChat, which may or may not be something that you guys are familiar with. I will touch upon it a little bit in this presentation, but I do dive heavily into it in my course booked by Instagram. Just a quick look at the modules. I don't need to repeat myself. Okay, so starting with the client journey on Instagram. The client journey is really something that you may have heard in one way or another. It can be called multiple different things, like a marketing funnel. But if you've ever taken like any sort of marketing class, it pretty much is like marketing one-on-one or 101. You are going to hear about this. It's really like the backbone of marketing. And I just don't think people really have ever looked at Instagram and kind of looked at it in a way through the client journey. I think that like when we think of marketing, sometimes we think of much more like complicated scenarios and not so much Instagram. But it is really important to understand that Instagram does function like a client journey. And it's really important to remember that as you are building your Instagram marketing plan and really focus on leading your clients through these phases. So, people are rarely going to find you on Instagram and immediately inquire. They might, and that will be amazing, but they might not be the ideal client because they might not have done any sort of research on you to really know about your process or your prices and things like that. But instead, they typically move through a few stages, as you see here. So the client journey is discovery, exploration, trust building, and inquiry. And again, you'll see these named or you'll see these listed with different names in various different places. Everybody has kind of their own formula for it, but phase one is discovery, and it's essentially exactly what it sounds like. So, this is when somebody finds you on Instagram, whether that is through a reel that you shared, maybe a hashtag that you used on a post, or maybe somebody reposted your reel to their story and somebody saw it that follows them. Whatever it may be, this is when they are just initially discovering your work. So the goal here is simple. It's just visibility and to intrigue them. So you want them to obviously see your content, but then you want them to kind of want a little bit more. So ask yourself in this phase, like, how can you share your work in a way that captures someone's attention and makes them want to discover more? So then from the discovery phase, once they realize, oh, I want to know more about this business or this person or this account, they're going to enter the exploration phase. And now this is when, they find your reel, they click on your profile, and now they're scrolling through all your content. So they're scrolling through your posts, your reels, maybe watching your story highlights, maybe watching the stories that you currently have live. They're while they're doing this, they're subconsciously asking themselves, like, do I like this style? Do they look professional? Do they seem experienced? And this is really the phase where your portfolio, aka like your Instagram, and your educational content is really going to help build credibility. And what I mean by educational content is just anything that you have shared on your profile that educates your client about your process. So whether it's a post about timelines or pricing or materials, whatever it may be, this is just going to really help them realize like, wow, this person actually knows like what they're talking about. They clearly have experience. They have a process already built. They have past clients who have tests or who have given testimonials. Like they are really starting to realize like, wow, they are very credible and valuable. And so all of those things is going to lead them into the trust building phase. And this is when they're really going to start engaging with content. Um, and then behind the scenes posts, which I'm going to dive into a little bit more later on in this presentation, but behind the scenes posts, process content, and personality driven posts are really going to help them feel like they understand how you work. So anything that you can share with your audience that's going to start to prove to them that you can be trusted, you do have a solid process, you do have experience. It's really going to start to make them realize that they can trust you and that they want to work with you. So once they feel that they have built a trust with you, they're going to be led to inquire. And so this is finally when they feel comfortable enough to reach out, whether it's 20 minutes after they scroll through your account or whether it's a year later. The goal of your content is really to just guide people through these phases naturally. So if you do this and if you allow, or if you like focus on Instagram and allow Instagram to work for you, then this process is going to run very seamlessly. And it honestly will start to like work for you in your sleep. So, as I mentioned, behind the scenes content, this is really important because it helps to nurture that trust building phase. So, people want to see behind the scenes content. It is definitely the most common thing that I share on my account. But it's just a really powerful way to build trust with potential clients. So it helps them to really see the process behind your work and understand the value and the time and the expertise that goes into what you are creating. As I mentioned, it's nurturing the trust building phase, and that's really the most important phase because most of the time people will easily go through this client journey on Instagram, but then they'll get to that trust building phase and they just fall off. They don't convert the people in the funnel to the inquiry or the inquire phase. So it's important to really nurture this trust building phase so that we can then convert these potential leads into actual leads. So, why behind the scenes content works? Again, clients just really love to see the care and effort that is going into their stationery. I share a lot about behind the scenes stuff on my Instagram, and almost every single time I do, I get DMs from the client, and they are like so excited that their work came across their screen. Of course, get permission from your clients before you share anything, and always blur out any information that you don't want people to see, like addresses and dates and anything that might be personal. But clients really do just get so excited to see their work come across their screen. So, in addition to that, it makes you relatable. So, seeing a human actually crafting something on the internet just makes you relate to the next person who may do crafting in a different way. Um, More importantly, it does build authority and it shows that you're not just a designer behind a screen, but you actually are a professional with a refined process. And then honestly, it is truly just eye-catching. And you'll see when we get into my real formula why eye-catching is so important. Um, but like I said, you want to share content that's going to leave people wanting more. So by posting eye-catching content, it's going to intrigue people to want to look at more about or want to look into more about what you're doing and what you're creating, and may lead them to click on your post, or I'm sorry, on your profile and go and explore more. So some simple ideas of things to capture that are behind the scenes content. So this is a list of some things that I always have good success with when I post on Instagram. Just really simple things like envelope stuffing, printing envelopes, cutting paper, adhering envelope liners, anything that you are doing with your hands. Just set up your phone to record. It really doesn't have to be complicated, but they really do like to see the behind the scenes. And so editing for energy is really important when we're talking about reels here. Again, we'll get into this a little bit more when we get to the reel formula portion, but it's important to trim out pauses. So every second of stillness that you have in your video, it risks losing a viewer. We have such a short attention span nowadays that like you need to grab attention quickly and keep it. So you have to make it short and punchy. And then so in addition to that, keeping your reels between 5 to 10 seconds max. Once you reach that 10-second mark, you're likely going to see people fall off. Next, it's important to focus on one task per reel. I do believe there's a time and a place to show like the process from start to finish. Or maybe it's like you're showing tying a ribbon and then, or, inserting it into a vellum wrap and then tying a ribbon around it and then stuffing it into the envelopes and then sealing the envelopes. Like there's a time and a place for showing multiple tasks. However, for most of these short reels, you want to focus on just one task per reel. So, again, just remember behind the scenes content works because it's satisfying to watch. So, just try and keep it tight, clean, and fast paced. So, behind the scenes content is really important because it answers questions that potential clients have before they might even think that they have them. So, it also makes your business feel much more human and approachable. And when people are seeing the work that is going into what you are creating, it naturally increases the perceived value. So, again, all of this behind the scenes content, while it seems simple, it is really nurturing that trust building phase, which is really important. Moving on to storytelling that sells. So this is talking a little bit more about other content that we can share that is nurturing that trust building phase. So again, as I mentioned, trust building is the most important part or phase just because it is the one where we most often see potential clients fall off of the funnel. Um, Storytelling is essentially something that's going to deepen the connection that somebody will have with you and your brand. So it simply allows you to go beyond showing your work and instead you're going to share the story behind it. So instead of like simply posting a photo or a reel with a caption that says blush and burgundy for A and B, you can try and talk about the inspiration behind the design, what the client was envisioning versus like what you created, maybe a challenge that was solved. If there's any like special details that made the project super unique, talk about those. You can also talk about like the plans that you have for cohesive design in their day of items as well. So stories really help people imagine themselves working with you. And when someone can picture themselves having an experience working with you, then they become much more likely to inquire. Okay. Module 4, turning engagement into inquiries. Super important here. So you've made the behind the scenes posts, you've made the storytelling posts, and now you're starting to see some engagement on that. What do you really do to make sure that they become inquires or inquiries? So again, this is when we get to the point where people really get stuck. So you have the engagement, but they're not transferring over to real inquiries. The missing piece here is typically guidance, and your content really needs to kind of direct people towards the next step. So it might seem obvious, it might seem like you're repeating yourself 100 times, but it's really important to include these call to actions. So again, they are simple, but there's something that you can just plug into the bottom of a caption or at the end of a reel on screen if you want it to be like that. But just simply guiding people so that they know what the next steps are. Um, you can also remove this sort of hesitation by using more educational content and educating your clients about the process. If you are consistently sharing your process, it's going to alleviate this sort of questioning that people are having, and they're going to instead, know exactly what they need to do to move on to or to move into that next phase. So, for example, on some educational content, you can create content that explains your timelines, your price ranges, what working with you looks like, maybe what your services include. I feel like sometimes people forget to share these things because to them, they think social media should be more light and airy and fluffy and like more fun. But it's important to share these things and share the actual information and the facts because the goal is to get people to your website or the goal is to get people to inquire. And if they're not coming to your website ever, then they're never going to know these things. So you need to use Instagram as a platform to share pretty much the information that is on your website, but think about it as nobody's ever going to go to your website. Um, so when people understand what to expect, they are much more likely to actually reach out. And automation tools can help a lot with this process as well. And that's where we get into automation and ManyChat. So these are some things that you can automate through Instagram. So you can automate freebie deliveries, resource sharing, engagement, and email list growth. So when you make a post, let me just make sure I'm not getting ahead of myself. Okay. So, for example, when you post a reel or you post a post, you want to direct people to take a next step. But then once they take that step, whether it's, sending you a message or commenting on the reel, then you obviously need to nurture them from that point on. So, an automation that I have set up kind of looks like this here. So, essentially, somebody will comment on the reel and then it will automatically send them a DM, which is what you see here on the right. And then it will also automatically respond to their comment with, I think you can do up to three customized messages that you can comment back to them. So it looks like I'm really commenting back to all these people, but I'm not doing that by any means because it would take me forever and I just don't have the time for that. So instead, I automate it through manychat.com. So, for example, here, the only thing I had to do was I needed to post a reel and then I needed to create the automation in ManyChat. Um, on the other side, this is all that the client is seeing. So from the little work that I did, the client is seeing an informative DM immediately, which includes a call to action. They're then seeing a branded landing page or maybe an inquiry page. If you add them to your email list, you could have a workflow set up that is then showing them branded and educational emails every 3 to 4 days or whatever it may be. But that's really starting to then show them authority. They'll see several call to actions. They'll see a straightforward opportunity to solve their problem. So whether that's inquire for pricing, set up a call, sign up for a course, whatever it may be. And they're really being guided directly through that client funnel without you even having to pick up a finger. So just a real life example for me with this, with my course books booked by Instagram. I have been sharing reels this week, and in the reel and in the caption, I'm saying comment booked, and I'll send you more information. So people are commenting booked, and then they're automatically getting this DM from me. They click get updates, and that's taking them to a lead capture form that is set up in my email marketing platform. They fill out that, which requires their first name and their email address. They enter that, and now suddenly they're on my email list. Once they're on my email list, I have a workflow set up. So they have, I think it's about 3 or 4 emails that they're getting prior to my course launch. And then on the day of the course launch, they're getting an email stating, the course is open. Here's how you buy it. And then I think the day of the course ending or the enrollment ending, they're getting another email just reminding them if they haven't purchased, today's the last day. So this is all happening for me while all I had to do was set up an automation in ManyChat. So ManyChat is it's honestly it's just so great. There's so much you can do in ManyChat and it would take me hours to really talk through everything. I will say inside my course, booked by Instagram, I will walk you through exactly how to set up your account and set up your automations. I have screen share videos, so literally you can do it with me. But yeah, it really is just such a beautiful resource that has really changed the way for marketing and how you can use, or I'm sorry, for Instagram and how you can use it as a solid marketing tool. So, some key tips for automation if you do decide to give it a try, which I really hope you do. Always keep things in your natural voice. You can do this by adding emojis and a conversational tone. Just because it is an automation doesn't mean it needs to feel like one. So, just picture it as typing a message to one of your friends that you are DMing or something like that. So, keep it short and friendly. Avoid sounding robotic by any means. If you want to take it a step further and you want to segment your audiences, so if you have an audience that tailors more towards semi-custom versus fully custom, you could split it out so that the people that are more equipped for semi-custom are getting certain information, and then people who are more equipped for fully custom design are getting information that is tailored towards that. Um, so doing all of these things really is just going to nurture your clients or your potential clients in a way that it's going to be working for you. And that's really the key thing with Instagram marketing is finding a way that it works for you because I know Instagram can be exhausting and I know we all really can hate it sometimes, but when it's used properly, it truly is such an important tool. I highly recommend you try out ManyChat this week. If you have any questions about it, you can shoot me a DM on Instagram. Or if you sign up for my course booked by Instagram, like I said, I will literally walk you through exactly how to set it up. All right, so moving on to our final module. This is my signature Instagram reel formula, and this is truly my like bread and butter with market or with Instagram marketing. Um, First and foremost, why are reels so important? I remember a few years ago when Instagram essentially announced reels and us business owners just, it was the worst day ever, right? Like we literally thought it was the worst news we could have ever gotten. And to some of us, maybe it still is the worst news we've ever gotten. Maybe it is really that horrible. But the truth is, Instagram is still prioritizing video content, and Reels are truly the best way to get in front of new audiences. So, Reels give you reach that push beyond your current followers, pushes beyond what your posts and your stories can do. But it's important to remember that not every reel works. So the difference between a reel that flops and a reel that goes viral or gets a ton of views often comes down to literally just a few tiny little details. So when you are editing your reels, these are some mistakes that I see so often that you want to try and avoid. So you want to try and avoid adding long intros or like talking head clips at the start. There's a time and a place for these. But these quick, short, punchy reels that I keep talking about in this presentation are not the time for these. So the initial touch point that your potential client has with your content needs to grab their attention. And unless you have some like crazy, amazing verbal hook that you can give them by doing a talking head clip, then sadly, a talking head clip or a long intro is not going to be the attention grabbing hook that they need. So in addition to that, you also want to avoid over editing with transitions, which honestly is a good thing because adding on the transitions and the texts that causes more time or it takes more time, it causes more of a headache. That's like the part of real editing that I feel like so many people don't want to do. They don't want to get fancy with it. But you don't have to. You really shouldn't. You should just keep it simple, get rid of the transitions. Um, Next thing you want to try and avoid is using like random popular songs instead of intentional trending audio. If you're not sure what trending audio is, it's essentially any audio that you see in the audio section that has like a little up, like it's like a little arrow uptick. And it's a bonus if it has under 100 plays. I'm sorry, under 1,000 plays. If you have no idea what the heck I'm talking about, I do show you exactly how to find good trending audio in my course. But essentially, it's just audio that is trending at the time. Using this audio really does increase your chances of having a higher reach. And then the last mistake that I see people making so often is just making the reels too long. Promise me your viewers will lose interest. You really do want to try and keep it at that 5 to 10 second mark. So my signature reel formula, this formula has literally completely transformed my business. It has brought in over 65,000 followers, 25 million views, and over 50% of my clients. It's so simple. It's almost so simple that I feel like people don't believe me or people don't want to do it. But I really need you guys to trust me on this. So start with immediate movement, okay? Your reel needs to catch the attention of your viewer in literally the very first millisecond. The second you have a stall, you need to get rid of it. Trim out every single second that there is not movement. Um, Next, again, I'm sounding repetitive now, but keep it short and punchy at the 5 to 10 seconds. and then pair that with a trending audio. And these four things, I promise you, your reel will perform better than ones that have or ones that you have posted in the past. A bonus here is use hashtags. They are still relevant. I don't know where we got wrong here, but some way or somewhere along the way, people have started to remove hashtags and instead they're putting like keywords at the bottom of a caption with like commas in between. I don't know, but hashtags are still relevant. Every account is different, but right now mine is giving me a max of 5 hashtags. It used to be 30, now it's 5. But again, every account is different, so you might still have 30, but if you have 5, use those 5. If you have 30, you don't need to use all 30, but 5 to 10 hashtags on a reel. That really is still how people are finding new content. So don't sleep on hashtags. In the course, I do give you a hashtag bank, and I do tell you the hashtags that I use on most of my reels that have gone viral. So, um, at the end of your reel, you want to make sure that you're giving your clients or potential clients a clear takeaway. So the viewers should really feel like they either learned something or they should feel inspired. So these two things really help to convert these viewers into followers. And once they become a follower, they're now entering that client funnel. So when your reels are bringing new people in and the rest of your content starts to build trust and guides potential clients towards the next step, this is when Instagram is becoming a consistent source of inquiries for you. These are a few of my real examples. That have literally followed my real formula to the T. They're super simple, super easy. And this first one here on the left, this was back in 2022. And then this one here on the far right, this was earlier this year. Like this real formula hasn't just happened or hasn't just worked for me like a couple times. This literally works for me consistently week to week to week. And so they're not complicated. They're very simple. A little case study from my own reels just to show you again, the analytics really don't lie. All of these reels, they are no longer than 10 seconds. There's no stalls or pauses, and there's immediate movement at the beginning of the reel. Now, I know you might be thinking this only worked for me. It's only me. Like I just got lucky. So I really want to show that that is not true. Um, I'm sorry, the account here shown is Lucky Orchid Designs. She has implemented my reel formula, and you'll see on the left here, this is her average reel view before she started to implement the reel formula, so 1100. And then after implementing the reel formula, her reel views, the average reel views was up to 22,000. So that's over an 1800% increase. And these new style of reels for her included immediate eye-catching movement, no pauses or stalls, maximum 10 seconds, and using 5 like recommended hashtags. So I thought it was really important to show you that this is working for other accounts. It's not just my account. It really is such a good tool to use when you are creating your reels. So just to show you again, analytics and numbers, they don't lie. So your analytics could look like this if you start to implement the real formula, but also if you really start to take marketing or Instagram marketing seriously and start to look at it as a prime way to get clients to go through the marketing funnel for you. So the goal with Instagram is really not to just post content. The goal is to start to build a system where reels are attracting new people, behind the scenes content is building the trust, storytelling is creating a connection, and then you're having clear call to actions to help guide people toward inquiring with you. And then you have automation tools in place that are making this process easier for you and working for you and not against you. And when all of these pieces are working together, Instagram truly becomes a powerful tool for turning views into inquiries. And now we are going to jump into Q&A, so I'm happy to answer any of your questions. Um, and yeah, I hope that you guys found this super helpful. And yeah, can't wait to see what reels you guys create from here.
Thank you so much, Julia. That was fabulous. Like I want to do booked by Instagram now. I'm pretty excited about it. I learned so much today and I'm like 25 modules. Oh my goodness. That's crazy. Let's go ahead and I'm going to start with some questions that you guys submitted when you registered for the event, and then we'll move into the live Q&A. So just enter your questions in the chat box and we'll get going. Um,
I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. I hope that's okay.
yeah,
Okay.
perfect. So how would someone go about gaining followers on Instagram when the account is brand new?
So honestly, everything I just went through is really um applicable to any size Instagram account. Honestly, starting brand new, you probably have a little leg up because you don't have any sort of like I don't know, audience like a lot of times people have a if they have a lot of following, a lot of those followers are not inactive, so it's kind of like a clog. Um so starting brand new, I would honestly implement everything I just went through. It really doesn't matter if you have 100 followers or 50,000 followers. It's really this is gonna help you bring in an audience. So yeah, I hope that that helps to answer your question, but truly, it does not matter if you're a new or an old account.
Perfect. How do you go about promoting your business with like images of your work and not worrying about people like stealing your designs?
Yeah. Honestly, if you want to post just like static photos of your work, one option you can do to avoid, I mean, if people want to steal work, unfortunately, they're going to do it one way or another. But if you want to sort of like have a layer of security, you could always add a watermark to your photos if you wanted to. Um, I personally have never done anything to prevent my work being stolen. It's just not something that I really worry about. If it has been stolen, I haven't come across it, so they're getting away with it. But yeah, I would say if it's photos you're worried about, I would recommend a watermark of some sort because then at least if somebody else comes across it, they can potentially bring it back to you and bring it to your attention.
Hmm. That's great advice. How do you go about planning and scheduling your content in advance?
Okay, so Instagram has well, let me backtrack. I was getting excited about one of Instagram's apps, but if you want to plan and schedule content out, truly the best platforms that I have found for scheduling is doing it directly through Meta's Business Suite. I've tried different third-party applications and they just don't, there's always just an issue that arises that like causes the biggest headache. So I would recommend scheduling things on Meta's Business Suite. I specifically use that for like photo posts or static posts. If you want to schedule reels, I recommend doing it directly in Instagram's app. Um, if you haven't heard of Instagram Edits, it's actually Instagram's like reel editing app. They have a totally separate app for reel editing. So I create all of my reels in Edits. I believe it's very user friendly. I like it a lot. And then you can directly post it from edits to Instagram, but before you actually do that, you have the option to schedule it. So I do recommend scheduling reels directly through Instagram, and then static posts through Meta Business Suite. I do touch upon edits in my course as well, just because I don't know if everybody really like knows that it's an app that's out there, but it is really, really beneficial, and I really think it does make making reels a lot easier, which I think a lot of people are hesitant about. So yeah, definitely check it out.
Yeah, we actually use that here at PrintsWell. So
Hmm.
we schedule through Meta and Instagram, the Instagram app. So
Yeah.
I agree with that. Are there any other like tools for creating reels that you use?
Um, Tools like I don't know if this is kind of talking or if this is asking more so like digital tools or like personal tools that I'm using like to record in my office. If that's the case, really the only like tool I use is a tripod. Um, I just literally set it up right next to me and I just let it record my desk as I'm doing things with my hands. Other than that, like natural lighting or bright lighting is always super helpful and like a nice clear background. But honestly, like video, it doesn't have to be complicated, truly. Like I'm sure if you look at my Instagram, there's reels with junk all over my desk. So like for me to sit here and say clear background, like it doesn't really matter. But it definitely is helpful to have like a tripod of some sort. But if this question's asking about like digital resources, the only thing that maybe like that I have played around with that I know some people use is just another like video editing software, which is called CapCut. But that can get a little like technical, and I'm not sure if that's really like the most user-friendly option.
Mhm.
So yeah, hopefully I answered that question.
Yes, sorry, it didn't specify, but I think you did great.
Okay.
For the behind the scenes, does that have to be video or can it be photo of some sort?
Um, I mean, video is definitely going to do better. Um, and I mean, I can't really picture how you could really show behind the scenes. I mean, I guess I can, but I think as long as you are having like a mixture, like if you're still posting reels of some sort and then you also want to post like a behind the scenes photo, yes, that's going to be beneficial. It's still going to show your like potential clients like that you are like an actual person and you have like systems and processes in place. But I would definitely not let it all be photos, if that makes sense. I think there is just such an art to seeing it done in video, like with our hands.
That makes a lot of sense. Let's see the next question. Can you give us some examples of the hashtags that you're using that seem to work for you?
Yeah, so like I said, I typically right now I'm just doing five because that's all I'm allowed to do. So you always want to kind of like pick some hashtags that are in more of like a broader range, and then you want to pick some that are more niche. So like a niche hashtag would be like hashtag custom wedding invitation. That still might be a little bit broad, or like hashtag pink wedding invitation or something like that. And then like a broad one would be hashtag 2026 wedding or hashtag 2026 bride. So you want to have a combination of like really big hashtags and more niche, smaller hashtags. And then on like my reels that have gone viral, I've used like, and I know like I don't have them memorized, but they're in the hashtag bank and in my course as well. But it's something like hashtag Insta Reels or hashtag viral reels. Like they're so silly and you like they look kind of spammy, but it's like I don't know. They were just on my reels that both performed well. And then a lot more of my more recent ones that have performed well as well. So I know it sounds silly, but those are some of the ones that I typically use.
Awesome. Whenever you're thinking about what cover photo you're going to use for your reels, do you think about your overall grid or how do you go about picking that photo if you use one?
Um, so I do think about my overall grid a little bit. I don't get too hung up on it because if people are like seeing my reel for the first time or they're finding my account for the first time through that reel, they're not seeing that cover photo. They're likely seeing me like in their explore page or like just scrolling through. And so in that regard, it doesn't really matter. But that being said, like I do try to care about what it looks like a little bit because essentially like Instagram, like your profile is like a portfolio. So, you want it to look nice and you want it to be aesthetic. Like we are designers at the end of the day, so like we shouldn't have like a crazy weird looking grid. Um Sometimes I'll use cover photos like if there's no still image I can grab from the reel that looks aesthetic enough, then in that instance, I'll use a cover photo, and sometimes that cover photo might not even have anything to do with what the video is, but I just will choose it because I know it will look okay on my grid. So I used to play around with like title or like making like real covers that have like text and titles on them. And then I could never stick with one that I really liked enough. So I kind of got away from that. But I do see some accounts that do cover photos that have like text on them and they look really nice. So that's like an easy option if you don't have a good photo to use as a cover.
Hmm. So I believe this person is talking about mini chats. If they can send like auto responses be sent during a certain time of day, is that like a capability in there?
Yeah, so you can have like time delays. So you can schedule things to be sent at a like on a certain day at a certain time. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And I'm going to ask a question that I just personally want to know, kind of bouncing
Mhm.
off that. Is there a certain time of day that you get the most engagement or a certain day in general?
Honestly, not really. The only days that I see do a little bit worse are like Friday evenings, pretty much all Saturdays, and then like Sunday mornings because I think people are just like out and about. They're like doing things, they're not on their phone as much. But as far as like the weekdays go, I see pretty like consistent like engagement no matter what day I post. So I kind of don't really pay attention to the time or the day much anymore. Um I'm like I know Instagram gives you like that statistic that shows you like when your followers are most active. I probably look at that like once a month and I don't think it's ever changed in like the 8 years I've been doing it. So like I don't know how accurate it is. Um but yeah, personally I don't pay any attention to like the time or the day.
Okay, that's great information. What are your thoughts about overlay text and reels? So having that in there compared to just having just a plain like video reel.
Yeah. I think I think there's a time and a place. I certainly like if I'm trying to just get information across to my audience and I don't really care about the video necessarily, then I have no problem putting text on the screen. Like if my goal is for them to read, then text is great. But if your goal is for them to see the video content, then I would just leave the text out. Um, most of my like reels that have performed very well, they'll start out with like a little title like adhering envelope liners to or adhering, yeah, envelope liners. And then that title will like go away after like 2 seconds. So then it will just be the video. So sometimes I think that having those titles helps to like grab their attention so that they know what they're about to watch. But again, I just think it comes down to like what your goal is for that reel, whether it's to like have the client like read and digest like information or if it's just to like grab their attention and just like show them something pretty.
hmm From an aesthetic point of view, do you believe like all your photos need to be beautiful and professional, or can they be, just snapped with maybe an iPhone or not like laid out on a flat lay?
Yeah. I definitely think I'm like in the middle. I think that I just like so I'm hesitant because like I used to be an account who like I never had professional flat lays done. And it got like it grew my business to where it is and it was fine. But now I do have professional flat lays a lot and I do post those a lot more and I see like I think from a like I guess eye-catching perspective, like having the pretty flat lays really like captivates somebody and like grabs their attention. But that being said, people can certainly take very solid photos with an iPhone at home. I have tried to take flat lays hundreds of times by myself at home with an iPhone, and it's just like I just can't make it look good at all. Like it just doesn't work. So I always lean towards the flat lays. However, there are plenty of designers out there who like take beautiful flat lays at home. So it just depends if that's something that like you have the eye for.
hmm Do you take your flat lays yourself or do you outsource that?
I outsource it.
Okay, someone wants to know where you get your flat lays, but I just wanted to see if you did that yourself or outsourced.
No, I use a photographer. Her name is Alyssa Bunton Photography. She's located in Pennsylvania, but paper ships anywhere, so I'm sure she would be more than happy to to photograph your invitation suites no matter where you are. Um, Pretty much like any flat lay that I've shared in the past like 6-ish months has been by her. Um, and then before that, it was a company called Lytle Photography Company, and she also does incredible work. Um, so yeah,
Yeah, I believe any wedding photographer would be fabulous at that.
yeah,
Like if you wanted
absolutely.
to find one in your
And
town.
yeah, and I will say like it doesn't hurt to reach out to. So just a few months ago, I had posted on my story like if there's any wedding photographer who wants to like get some practice on flat lays, like I have so many suites I could send to you, just let me know. And I had probably the most responses I've ever gotten on an Instagram story of photographers willing to shoot my stuff for free. And so I'm not saying like take advantage of photographers, but like if they want to get that experience and if they want the practice with flat lays, they will offer it. So it wouldn't hurt to just like maybe ask around or make a post like that or something. Just some, I don't know, advice there.
Yeah, helping each other out.
Mm.
Would your process work for designers outside of the stationery world, like a different sort of creator or really any company?
I think so. I definitely like I think it would be harder for like somebody who, I don't know, does like a ton of maybe like website design or like copywriting or like photography I could see where it would work. Like social media management would be t like anything that like doesn't really involve like I guess like a craft of some sort. Maybe it might be more difficult.
Hmm.
Um, But that being said, like I think there's a way that it can be, tailored to work for other industries as well. Um, but it's hard for me to speak on that because I have just solely focused it on like stationery designers.
Hmm.
So I don't want to say like completely one way or the other.
No, that makes sense. Do you mind sharing your email marketing platform that you use?
Yeah, I use Flowdesk.
Flowdesk. Okay, awesome. Let's see, this one's a bit longer, but if you're focusing on 5 to 10 seconds for your behind the scenes reels, how do you personally balance in-depth or educational content that supports the exploration phase? Do you rely on carousel stories or longer form video?
Okay, so this is asking about the exploration phase. How do I nurture that when the reels that I'm sharing are typically like 5 to 10 seconds as long? Is that correct?
Yeah, like if you have more of an educational based, I guess like post, would you do that like a carousel or stories or a longer form?
Yeah.
It was really in depth.
I would either do like a longer form reel or a carousel probably. I know carousels are performing really well right now, more so than like regular static posts or like a single image. So carousels are a great option. Um, and that brings me to like a point of while the 5 to 10 second reels are like so crucial, they shouldn't be like the only source of content that you're sharing, right? So like the 5 to 10 second reel is really the goal is to bring the audience to you, but then once they get to your account, they should see different forms of content. They should see, the information about your processes and your workflows. And so yeah, I don't think those should be shared in the 5 to 10 second reels. They should be shared in another format. So probably carousels, or it could be a reel where like a lot of times you'll do like a quick reel, but then you'll have like more info in caption, like at the end of the reel. And then in the caption, it'll really go through like more information like that.
Hmm. Okay, so we have 4 more questions in the chat, so we'll get through those, and then I think we'll wrap it up for this live Q&A. I know we talked about kind of following your real suggestions when someone is starting out on Instagram, but do you have any other advice for like they're just starting out and like kind of what they need to do, maybe with like having highlights or stories or anything like that, like what they need to post?
Yeah. So as far as like posting goes, if you're like a new account, I would just start with like think of it as like building your portfolio. So like you want to share some flat lays, you want to share some like testimonials, share pictures of like your office of day of stuff. Like kind of like start to focus on like bringing in a lot of different elements of your business to share and just think of it as like this is somebody's first touch point of your business. Um, and then like posting aside, what you can try and do to help grow your account if it's newer, start to like follow other people that are in the industry, not just stationery designers, but like photographers, videographers, venues, planners, like start to build connections with those people, whether they're local to you or not local to you. And then I would suggest like getting story highlights set up on your account so that when people do get to your profile, they can click through those. Because I do think story highlights are a really great way for people to see like not just like previous work, but like behind the scenes and like more maybe like more personal stuff about you, like to really start to like build a connection with you as a company. Um, so yeah, those are just like a few things that come to mind when I think like what would I do if my account were um just starting out.
hmm If you're just starting out, or when you started out, did you ever do any styled shoots or like fake invites and post them? Like, how did you get people to trust you? Like, you're a real stationery designer, you have a business.
Yeah. The amount of fake invitation suites that I have designed is like diabolical. During COVID, that is truly all I did is design suites and print them out at my home computer and take pictures of them like literally nonstop. So to answer the fake invitation suite question, yes, absolutely. As far as styled shoots go, yes, when I was first starting out, like that was really such a beautiful gateway into the wedding industry. It was just like it was so fun to be a part of, but also then to like see my work being professionally photographed afterwards was like so crazy to me. So yeah, if you are new and you can get involved in a styled shoot, that would be absolutely amazing. They do like most of the time expect the work for free, so you have to understand that like you're working and your, I guess, return is like the images and the exposure and stuff. But yeah, they can be a really great opportunity when you're just starting out for sure.
Yeah. This isn't about Instagram. It's about a question about pricing. So we can just keep it super high level. But this person offers letterpress, digital, and custom designs, and they're struggling kind of knowing what ranges to price themselves. Do you just have like any high level advice on pricing?
Oh boy.
That's like a whole live itself.
Yeah. So honestly, like my biggest advice for pricing would just be like sit down with a piece of paper and literally go through like every cost that you're going to have to create and produce that invitation suite. And then like the industry standard is like 2.5 to 3 times upcharge for all of those costs. And then in addition to that, you need to think about like your personal design fee. So what is it that you're charging just to like work with you as a designer? And this design fee ranges drastically throughout the industry from designer to designer. But yeah, just make sure like focus on like knowing what costs what it what it is going to cost you and then adding that upcharge and then adding on that design fee as well. That's like the most like bare minimum I can say there without
Yeah.
like talking about it for days.
Yeah, I feel like that's such a tricky question, and we could just talk about
Yeah.
it forever. Okay, last question. So this person doesn't seem to be in the wedding invitation space, so maybe a different type of creative. And they use a fulfillment house. Hopefully, if you're using fulfillment, it's with PrintsWell Fulfillment. Um, but they can't do like the behind the scenes reels, like of them maybe like lining an envelope. Maybe they have us do it here for them. What other kind of maybe behind the scenes could they do if they don't actually like get their like printed products?
Yeah. Um, I mean, something like a type of content that has worked well for me in the past, and honestly probably still would today if I did it, but a lot of the times I will record my screen on my, I don't know, like it depends on what computer you have, but I have a MacBook and so I can like literally just screen record as if I was like on my iPhone. So I will sometimes record my screen when I'm like designing in Illustrator or Photoshop and I'll turn that into a reel and it always seems to like be really captivating for people because they're like literally looking at my computer screen. So that's like that's an interesting take. If you could do that, that would at least still show like the behind the scenes and show that like you are crafting these invitations. Um, but then yeah, without really knowing like your exact process, it's hard to say like if you ever get like product to you or if it like goes directly from the fulfillment to the client. But anytime that you are like having a touch point with something, just try and think about like how can I, take whatever I am doing and turn it into a reel.
I love the reels where people are like, come design with me, and they show their
Yeah.
computer and show everything. Those are my favorite. So I think that's a great idea. Okay, well, that's it. All the questions have been answered, and that was
Yay.
wonderful. I just want to just thank you guys for joining us, and thank you so much, Julia. This was fabulous.
Thank you so much. I hope you guys found something useful out of this.
Yes. Okay, everyone, have a wonderful night.
Bye.
Bye.